Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe, and the end of the year is upon us, so you know what that means. It's time for a bunch of top 10 lists. And this list here is going to be my top 10 comic book based Marvel Legends figures to come out in 2021. I love comic book stuff. First and foremost, I'm a comic book guy, so this is the stuff that gets me really excited. So that's why I had to do this list first. After I do this, I'm probably going to do like a everything else Marvel Legends, so Gamerverse, MCU mostly, actually, what if, whatever, all that kind of stuff is going to go into another list. This right here is all about the comic book stuff. And you know, I say that it's a top 10, but it's a little bit more than that because it's my list and I'm going to do what I want. I cheat a couple of times. I have a couple of little subcategories just to sneak a little bit more figures in there. I got all kinds of weird things going on, so don't take the list too seriously. Don't take the position of the figures too seriously. This is definitely just for fun and just to kind of show appreciation to a bunch of cool figures that came out this year. I have the Toy Biz Captain America right here holding it down for us. But let's go ahead and get into it, starting off with number 10. So at the number 10 spot, we have the Age of Apocalypse Sabertooth. And I'll be honest, originally when I first took this guy out of the packaging, I really wasn't all that blown away. I was just like, okay, it's a cool looking figure. He's big, so that's nice. But I'm not crazy about the body they used. I wish they would have used something that had a little bit more articulation, and I think that would have made him better. But once I put Wild Child on his back, that's when I was really sold on this guy. Then I was like, oh, okay, man, this is awesome. Like, I love the way he looks on the shelf. Even though he doesn't have the most articulation, he does have a decent amount. So you could get the two of them in some awesome poses. But yeah, having Wild Child to go along with this Sabertooth is really what saved this figure. So I know it's kind of cheating. Wild Child came through with the assist, but whatever. I really love this whole setup. And Creed and Wild Child just look so cool next to the rest of the Age of Apocalypse figures. So I like the way this guy came out, although I do wish they would have used a body that had butterfly joints. I think that's the only thing that this guy's really missing. Aside from that, I think this is an awesome interpretation of the Age of Apocalypse Sabertooth, and I think it does the job looking awesome on the shelf. So that's why he's at the number 10 spot. And then at the number 9 spot, we have the HasCon exclusive retro animated series Venom. And this figure is awesome because of the body that he's on. And a big reason why is because a lot of fans were asking for Venom to be put on this body ever since it debuted on the Omega Red figure. So when we saw that, everybody was like, it would be perfect for Venom, it'd be perfect for Sabertooth, and it's really cool that Hasbro listened to the fans and they made it happen. And it sounds like they're going to do the same for Sabertooth, so I look forward to seeing that. But yeah, this is a really great figure. I like the animated paint scheme that we have going on. It kind of reminds me of like the NECA Ninja Turtle stuff, and that's a good thing because I love those figures. But yeah, this thing is awesome. It's a really nice figure, fun to mess around with. It's probably the best Marvel Legends Venom figure. Actually, I'm gonna take that back. It's not probably the best Venom from Marvel Legends. It's definitely the best. It screams 90s Venom to me in every way. Just the size and the feel and just everything about it. So I think it's a really nice figure. He would have been a little bit higher on the list if they would have plugged up the peg holes on the side, and if they would have given him pinless joints. Like, I'm perfectly fine with this torso that they used, and I do like the arms and legs, but I just wish they would have updated them with the pinless joints, and then that definitely would have put him higher on the list. But as it is right now, I think it's a great figure. That's why he's at number 9. And then coming in at number 8, we have Lady Deathstrike from the Zemnu Builda Figure wave. This is a character that's been in desperate need of an upgrade for years, ever since the Toy Biz days. I don't think Hasbro ever tried to do a Lady Deathstrike, and I'm glad they waited until they got to the point where they were making really high quality Marvel Legends and putting a lot into the sculpts and things like that, because she really needed it. And I think that she benefited from them waiting. I think they did a great job with this. It's got some amazing sculpting work, the cybernetics, the head sculpt, the arms, the crazy ass claws. Yeah, it would have been better if she had longer fingernails, and it would have been cool if she came with the head that had the hair relaxed. As it is right now, all that stuff looks really good, but you know, the head sculpt is a little bit limited. You kind of have to have her always in some kind of fighting in motion type of movement, but you know, it's okay. It still looks badass. The hands look good, but I do wish that the claws were a little bit longer. Aside from those two issues, I think this is like a perfect Lady Deathstrike. I think she came out really, really dope, and that's why she made the list. Alright, so now it's time for a detour into one of those subcategories that I mentioned earlier. And right here, what we have are some of the deluxe figures. I think they did a good job with the deluxe stuff. I really like that format. And I feel like they should lean more towards that as opposed to like Builda Figures. I would prefer to see more deluxe figures. I like that whole idea, and I think it's worked out pretty well for them so far. But I don't really want to compare these figures to the regular releases because just like Builda Figures, most times they're like bigger figures, or they're smaller figures that come with a lot more stuff. So it's hard to compare them to a straight up standard release Marvel Legends. So I'm going to give them their own category, just like I would with the Builda figure, which we'll get to a little bit later. But right here we have 3 of my favorite deluxe figures. We have MODOK, Thanos, and Maestro. And my favorite out of these 3 is definitely Thanos. So when I first got Thanos, I had some problems with them. Right when I took him out of the box, I crunched him forward and I chipped the paint right here. And I don't know if I had a bad one or if I was a little too rough with it. In any case, I went ahead and touched it up. And after I did that, I was completely fine with it. I got the gold to match pretty good. And then I even carved away a little bit right here to increase the articulation, and it just made me really fall in love with this figure. So I think it's a really good representation of a classic Thanos. This is something that Marvel Legends has never done, not even in the Toy Biz days. The only classic Thanos we've ever gotten is from Marvel Select, and also Hasbro did one in 3 3/4 inch. So there's that. And those are both figures, but we never had a proper Marvel Legends scale Thanos figure, and now we do. And this guy is pretty damn perfect as far as Thanos goes. So I think they did a good job with it, and that's why it's my favorite deluxe Marvel Legends figure. Now back onto the list, at the number 7 spot, we have the Age of Apocalypse Iceman from the Colossus Build-A-Figure wave. And this guy was kind of a sleeper hit to me. I really wasn't expecting to like it as much as I do. And when you just think about it, it doesn't sound like that impressive of a figure. But once you have him in hand, he's like really, really dope. I just like the way he feels, to be honest. Like the articulation is very standard Marvel Legends articulation, nothing crazy. You know, it's basically the Bucky Cap articulation setup. But he's still so fun to pose around and mess with. And you know, like there's certain things that Marvel Legends articulation does that kind of interfere with the aesthetic of like the figures, but in Iceman's case, like none of it seems to matter. Like you got some blockiness going on with the waist swivel, right? But you know, because he has like such a blocky ice type look, like it doesn't matter, or it doesn't distract me like whatsoever like it does on some other figures. And I just think that he came out really, really cool. I like the blue. The translucent like kind of blue that we have going on looks really awesome. I've always been a big fan of this version of Bobby too, you know. I think that it's very cool. It's a unique take, but still looks like Iceman. It's undeniably Iceman. As soon as you see it, you know who it is, but he just kind of looks warped or just different, you know. And that's exactly what Age of Apocalypse was all about. So I think this is an awesome figure of an awesome character. And at the number 6 spot, we have what's probably my favorite female Marvel Legends figure from Hasbro, and that would be none other than Tigra. And she actually almost got the number 5 spot, but at the last minute, I had a change of heart. I had to switch things around because I was messing with the number 5, and I was like, nah, this thing's too good. Let me move things around real quick. But still, I really, really love this figure. If you follow my live streams, then you know I love this because I'm constantly talking about how awesome it is and how surprised I was by it. And just, you know, I just love it. I think it's such a great figure, and it's what I would like to see from Hasbro going forward with all their female figures. They gave her pinless double elbows and knees. They gave her a bunch of uniquely sculpted parts just for her, and that's something I wasn't expecting. When I saw the figure, I just thought it was going to be a, you know, like a repaint of a blank body, kind of like Shriek or something like that. But when I got it in hand, I noticed that like the shoulder has sculpted fur. She has some sculpted fur on her legs and on her arms and on her hands. There's all kinds of unique pieces that we'll probably never ever see again. So I thought that was dope that they did that for Tigra, who's like a classic legendary Avenger. You know, she's been around forever. She's been in desperate need of an updated figure for a very long time. Hasbro tried to do one, you know, back in the early Hasbro Marvel Legends days, and it wasn't very good. So I'm happy they came back around and gave us a nice figure for this character who really deserves it. The only real problem she has is that the color is a little too orange, I guess you could say. I don't know. The color is just slightly off. I do wish it was a little toned down. And the other thing is, I really wish they would have given her a ball joint at the waist. If they would have done that, the articulation would have been absolutely perfect. As it is right now, it is pretty damn good, and she is a whole lot of fun to play with. And yeah, this was another like sleeper for me. I really didn't think that I would like this figure as much as I do. And at the number 5 spot, we have Big Hercules. And just look how awesome this guy is. I'm so happy that Hasbro finally gave us this version of Hercules on this body. A couple of years ago, they did give us a really nice Hercules that had a lot of the same parts, but it was a more like modern version of Hercules. And I think a lot of people like that figure. But personally, I just wanted a classic version of Hercules with that same recipe. So I'm really happy that Hasbro came around and did it and just did such an amazing job with it. And this figure would have been higher on the list. He probably would have been at number 2 if he had pinless joints at the elbows to match the rest of the figure, or to match the knees more specifically. For whatever reason, you know, they gave him pinless joints at the knees but not the elbows. I think that was a bad decision, and it kind of throws off the entire look, because I love the way the pinless joints look. And I think this figure would have looked a lot better if he had those. As it is right now, the joints, the elbow joints are kind of an eyesore, just because the rest of the figure looks so good. The arms kind of feel a little bit old or something. But still, even with that issue, I think this is an amazing figure. I just wish they would have done that with the elbows, because I doubt they're ever going to try to do this version of Hercules again, because this one is almost perfect. I really don't see them re-releasing this Hercules just to give him updated elbows. Just doesn't make too much sense. Since this was the one time they were going to do it, they should have just done it right and made him perfect, because he's almost there. And if he had that, he probably would have ended up at number 2. I don't think he would have got the number 1 spot, but he's good enough to be at the number 2. But I had to put him at 5 because those elbow joints just really kind of pissed me off. Aside from that, I really do think that he's an amazing figure, and I'm happy to have this classic version of the character. Alright, so now that we've entered the top 5, let's go ahead and take another quick detour to talk about some Builda Figures. So here are some of the Builda Figures that Hasbro put out this year that I was a big fan of. I love what they did with the whole Builda Figure thing. I like that they chose really obscure characters that we weren't really likely to see in any other type of release, you know, whether it's like a deluxe thing or a single pack or whatever. These are characters that it's highly unlikely that there would be a huge casual demand for these guys. These characters are straight up for comic book nerds, and I love it. I think that Hasbro did a great job on every one of these, and I just really love the character selection. I don't like every single Build-A-Figure that they did this year. These are some of my favorites, but I think in general, they did a great job with them. Let's go ahead and take a look at each one of these very quickly, starting with Ursa Major. I think this thing is freaking awesome. Look at the sculpting work on him. The paint is nice, the articulation, the size, just everything about this is pretty damn incredible. And he's not my favorite. He's not my favorite Build-A-Figure this year, but he did have a shot. Next up, we have Ximenu. This is basically just a repaint of the Wendigo Build-A-Figure from a couple of years back, but I think it's a pretty good reuse of parts, and they added enough stuff here to make them feel different, and I do like it a lot. I like this one way more than I was expecting to. And then next up we have Armadillo, and Armadillo is a straight up beast. This thing is so freaking badass. I just love how big he is, how massive, his presence, just everything about him is super dope. He just looks like he's ready to give Captain America the freaking worst day ever, man. This thing is so dope. And then next up we have Mr. Hyde, and I know not a whole lot of people like this Mr. Hyde figure, but I think he came out nice, man. It does a good job of capturing the crazed look of the character. I especially like his eyes. They look pretty psychotic. But I have to say, none of these are my favorite Build-A-Figure of the year. That honor goes to, bam, Age of Apocalypse Colossus. And again, I know that the whole Age of Apocalypse thing isn't for everybody, but I love it. I really hope that they give us a couple more waves from that universe. I think that Colossus was a really good choice for a Build-A-Figure. He came out really nice, some amazing sculpting work. He's big, he's huge, he looks awesome next to Kitty Pryde. Let's go ahead and get Kitty Pryde real quick. She's way back here, but yeah, look at them together, man. Having them together is freaking magical. These two are so dope together, and I love that they put her in the wave to build him. But yeah, this is my favorite Build-A-Figure that Hasbro put out this year. But to be completely honest, if I was talking about just in terms of quality and not like, you know, which characters I favor, if we were just talking quality, it would definitely be a tie between Armadillo, Colossus, and Ursa Major. I would say they're pretty equal in terms of quality and execution. So at that point, it just kind of comes down to character choice. And for me, that would be Colossus. But all three of these figures are freaking awesome. I was really surprised with how much I liked Armadillo. He's a beast, man. I love it. And then Ursa Major, again, just so like ambitious to do like a crazy character like this, you know, just a big ass super bear. But yeah, really great stuff. But for me, the best Build-A-Figure of the year is definitely Colossus from Age of Apocalypse. And at the number 4 spot, here's one that I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on, and this is Psychoman from the Fantastic Four Retro Wave. And the main thing that I love about this figure is the fact that he has such an old school, bizarre, Jack Kirby style look, that like Hasbro had no business going so hard on this figure. They did such a great job with the sculpt, the paint, just everything about this guy is like pretty much perfect. He could have been a little bit bigger, and I think that would have been better for Psychoman. But aside from that, like, this guy is just perfection, and it's not really a character that a lot of people were asking for. I know there's some straight up hardcore Fantastic Four nerds that probably had this on their list. So, you know, if you're one of those guys, shout out to you. But I think most people probably weren't thinking too much about Psychoman because it's not like he's running around in the comics now. The big modern thing that he did recently was appear in Contest of Champions. So some people know him from that, and that's about it. He's just an old school, obscure Jack Kirby creation. And I just love when Hasbro does those type of things. And not only that, they didn't just repaint some other figure. They gave him a unique sculpt and just went all out. And man, this is such a great figure. I can't say enough good things about it. Yes, he should have been bigger, but aside from that, this thing is freaking perfect and I love it. That's why he's at number 4. And then for this spot, I'm going to cheat a little bit. Coming in at number 3, we have Red Skull and Dormammu. And the reason why I decided to let them share a spot is because they basically have the same body. And this body is really nice. It debuted on these two figures in the same wave. And I think it looks good for both of these characters. And I look forward to seeing what else they do with it, because it's kind of unique and it looks different from all the other stuff we've seen in Marvel Legends. So hopefully they get good use out of it, and hopefully we could get some more crazy looking villains like this. But it's really nice to have classic versions of these guys, especially Dormammu, because, you know, for Red Skull, there's a bunch of Red Skull figures out there, whether it's Marvel Legends or Mezco, whatever. There's availability, you know, like a jumpsuit Red Skull already exists. Yes, it's a Mezco. Yes, it's crazy expensive, but at least it's out there. For Dormammu, we've never had a classic Dormammu from anybody. So I was really happy to have this figure, and I was just kind of torn as to which one of these figures I like more. I'm kind of leaning towards Dormammu just because I love the way he looks, and I had such fun taking pictures of him. But both of these figures are awesome, and it's just really nice to have these classic villains to go up against our superheroes. Ooh, and coming in at number 2, we have everybody's favorite android with daddy issues, and that would be Ultron from the Ursa Major Build-A-Figure wave. And I'll be honest with you, I would have been 100% okay if Hasbro never ever gave us a classic Ultron, because I have the Diamond Select one, and I love that figure. It's one of my favorite, I would say it's probably one of my favorite figures, period. I just love it. I've always loved it. I always will love it. But you know what? I could admit that there's some things on that figure that are a little outdated. So, you know, Hasbro came through and just kind of fixed all those problems, made it modern, made it awesome, and they just did an incredible job on this. And I would probably say that the Diamond Select one is like a near perfect Ultron, but this Hasbro one is probably a perfect Ultron. They did a really good job on it. It would be nice to get a version that has like black outlines or like black line work on the sculpt. I think that would be really cool, but it doesn't. The fact that it doesn't have those lines doesn't keep this guy from being as great as he is. Just to have something different, I think it'd be cool if they re-released Ultron with the black lines, maybe in like a Secret Wars series or something like that. I think that'd be cool. But man, this thing is so dope. He's got beautiful sculpting work, some nice articulation, pinless knees, pinless elbows, Kirby crackle, just everything that you'd want out of an Ultron. They really did an incredible job on this guy. And yeah, he's definitely one of the best Marvel Legends of the year. I could see that. I could see this guy ending up in a lot of people's just top 10 just in general, you know, not only Marvel Legends, just all over the place, because this thing is so dope. And it's just another, like, it's another example of how much love that Hasbro has for the villains. It's crazy that they put so much work into the villains. Ultron, Psychoman, High Evolutionary back there, just Dormammu, Red Skull, just all these villains that they've done lately. They've been doing an incredible job. And you know, like, Ultron is one of the best villains that they've done in the last couple of years, just in terms of like execution, sculpting, details, just everything was done so well on this guy. And again, you could tell that somebody over there really loves their villains, because every single time they want to do an old classic villain, they go all out, and Ultron is like the pinnacle of that. And before we get into the number 1 spot, let's go ahead and talk about some runner-ups. These are all figures that I briefly considered for the top 10, but there's just not enough not enough room for everybody, so they didn't make the cut. But I think they're all nice figures. Starting off with Riri Williams, I think they did an incredible job with the sculpting work on her, especially on the head. They killed it. She has some great articulation, except for in the torso. I do wish that she moved forward just a little bit more, but I think this is a great looking figure, and she's a character that I really don't know too much about, so I don't really have a huge attachment to her. But I think it's very cool that they give us modern characters and classic characters. I think they're doing a pretty good job at balancing those two things. So I think they did a great job with her, and she came out really nice. I wouldn't be surprised if she was on a lot of people's top 10 list. And then next up we have High Evolutionary, and this High Evolutionary is really cool too. He almost made it into the top 10, and he would have if I had more fun playing around with him, but to me he just looks awesome standing there. So he doesn't really have a huge fun factor in my opinion. He does the job for sure, but if it was a figure that I couldn't put down or something, he probably would have ended up in the top 10, because as far as the looks and the sculpt goes, they did a great job, and I think he's an awesome figure. Next up, we have Rogue from the Age of Apocalypse Colossus Build-A-Figure wave. And I was surprised with this figure. I wasn't really expecting too much out of her, but I think she came out really nice. And she looks cool next to Magneto, even though I wasn't very happy with Magneto. He's kind of weak. I think she's awesome. She's got pinless joints. The paint job looks clean and nice. And then next up, we have Captain Britain. I really wanted Captain Britain to make the cut, but as much as I like this figure, he just kind of feels a little bit old. I really wish that... I know there's not a whole lot going on with him, you know, like he's a blank body with the paint design that he needs. But I think it would have gone a long way if they would have given him new pinless arms and pinless knees. For me, that might have put him into the top 10. As it is right now, I think he's an incredible figure. I just feel like certain parts of him feel like a little bit old, you know, like they got to get rid of these arms. But aside from that, I think he's great. And then last but not least, we have Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch. This is a figure that I didn't even think that I needed, because I have like some other Johnny Storm figures and I'm pretty happy with them. And I was kind of trying to avoid this Fantastic Four retro wave because, you know, I have some Fantastic Four figures. I have the Mezco Fantastic Four on pre-order. So I was just like, I don't think I need another set. But then I started seeing this guy and the pictures just really sold me on him. He looked like a awesome figure that's a whole lot of fun. I love the lines on him. It gives him that old school look. I like the body that they used. So I knew I was going to like him. I was just trying to avoid the Fantastic Four. But I'm happy that I ended up with him. And shout out to Art with Toys, who actually bought me this for Christmas. That's very nice of you, Rick. Thank you so much. I'm glad you did, because it is a very awesome figure. And now having this guy kind of makes me want to go get the rest of the Fantastic Four, even though I'm trying to convince myself that I don't really need them, because I have two other Hasbro versions and the Mezco one on the way. So I don't know. We'll see. In any case, this is an awesome figure, and I think that a lot of people are going to put him in their top 10 as well. So that's the runner-ups. And at the number 1 spot, we have a figure that is probably not going to surprise anybody for its placement on this list, because when he came out, he was universally regarded as an awesome figure, and that's the modular Iron Man from the Ursa Major Build-A-Figure wave. And this is a damn piece of art. Hasbro absolutely killed it on this guy, and I would say this is probably the closest I've seen them get to import quality on one of their figures. It just feels different from most of the stuff that they put out. The colors, the metallic gold and red, the articulation is nice on this guy. I know some people were saying that maybe he should have had a diaphragm cut, and I kind of see where you're coming from, because I prefer a diaphragm cut, but at the same time, I think it might have obstructed the sculpt a little bit more than I would have been happy with on the torso. I mean, ab crunch kind of does that too, so you know, whatever, but I'm happy with the articulation. I think it's perfectly fine for this version of Iron Man. And just look at this thing, man. He's freaking perfect. I really hope that they re-release him with bright yellow colors to kind of match the way he looked in the 90s a little bit more. But as it is right now, this thing is a freaking piece of art, and I bet you he's going to end up as a lot of people's number 1, assuming they do like a comic book. He's not my favorite Marvel Legends of the year, just to let you know, but he is the best comic book Marvel Legends figure they put out this year, in my opinion. It's one of my favorite Iron Man figures in general, not just from Hasbro. They really did an incredible job on this guy, so that's why I had to put him at number 1. Alright guys, so that's it. That's my top 10 comic book Marvel Legends of 2021. I really hope that you enjoyed this video. And let me know what your top 10 is in the comments below. I know that it's going to be all over the place. I'm sure a lot of people aren't going to agree with my top 10, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That's kind of what makes these lists fun, you know? If we all had the same list, it would kind of be boring. So I really look forward to reading your guys' top 10s. And, you know, obviously I didn't cover every single thing that had to do with comic book Marvel Legends figures. The big one that's missing here is obviously the Sentinel, but I couldn't include him in this list. He's like his own animal. He's a whole different monster than just standard Marvel Legends figures. But, you know, the Sentinel was obviously a huge achievement, and I think that's really dope. In general, I think that Hasbro really did a great job with Marvel this past year. They gave us a bunch of really cool villains that we've been wanting for a long time. They've made like huge jumps forward with female figures, which, you know, that's been something that a lot of us fans have been asking for a long time. They finally started to put effort into the female figures. Like, I have 2 female figures in my top 10, and I think that's pretty good because those figures are pretty damn incredible and surprising, especially Tigra. She's awesome. But yeah, they had some more good female figures too. Like, I was a fan of Riri. I thought that the Age of Apocalypse, Shadowcat, and Rogue were good figures. So, you know, they're finally putting some effort into it, and it's awesome to see. But yeah, I think they did a great job this year. I loved all the Builda figures, the Deluxe figures. I like the character choices. I like the fact that they're giving us the Age of Apocalypse stuff, not only because I like Age of Apocalypse, but also because it's cool to see them go outside of the movies and go outside of just the regular 616 and kind of just give us things from different dimensions. Hopefully they do that more going forward. I hope to see some more 2099 stuff. I want to see some Earth X stuff, some Ultimate stuff. There's all kinds of different universes they could pull from, and I think them pulling from Age of Apocalypse is a good sign for things to come. So hopefully that turns out to be true. But anyways, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And look forward to some more top 10 videos. Thank you very much. Peace.